Hello, everybody. Stu Smith and Jeff Nichols here with the Tactical Fitness Report. And today we are going to talk about probably the first thing you have to master when you think about, wanting to go into any tactical profession, and that is a fitness test. So we're going to kind of specialize on the BUDS PST because that's what we do. And this is going to be a little introduction to probably forevermore. When we do a video, we are going to remind people this one thing, right? Forever. Master the PST before you even talk to your recruiter.
And more specifically, just so there's no confusion, master the PST before you enter officially, right? Officially yes. Enter the DEP program. And that's not, so here's the curveball, and this is, so just, we're not oblivious to this. We get it. Many recruiters, or all of them, should say, well, you can't get an official PST until you're officially sworn in. You're like, okay, I understand that.
Yes.
And I'm willing to do that, but I want to get, because here, there's two things that we're trying to accomplish by adhering to this advice. You make it easier on yourself, and you make it much easier on the recruiter, and through that, make it easier on the recruiter, you make it much easier on the Navy to make the decisions that you want.
Right.
So that's why we're saying this. We are not saying this to put our noses up at the Navy or recruiters or mentors or nothing like that. We're just saying, if you do your job before you show up to them, ask them to do their job, and your job's already pretty much done, the likelihood of them really putting their neck out for you and working for you is going to be there, more than likely.
Yeah. And I tell you what, instead of you calling the recruiter and trying to get in touch with him, he's going to be calling you to say, hey, here's it's all set up for you. Boom, boom, boom. Here's your ship date. Here's all this. Just make it easy. Plus, you got to treat this PST like your job interview. This is probably the first time you're ever going to meet, a SEAL mentor. That might be a SEAL, might be a diver, might be EOD guy, former all that. I think most of them are SEALs. Not all of them are.
I think there's 26. Someone messaged me because I was curious. So we were asking. I believe that there are 26 official mentors across the U.S. I believe that's
right. And
that's what I heard.
All throughout the recruiting districts.
Yeah, all over. Yeah.
But here's the deal: you got to treat this like a job interview. Now, this is the first time you're going to be showing what you have been doing, with this fitness test. This isn't a fitness test that they're going to make you better at doing. They will, because they're going to just do it all the time. Yeah. But you need to go in there saying, all right, this is how serious I am. And because here's why. You're going to be in the failure group or you're going to be in the passing group on day one. Which one do you want to be in? Right. Yeah. And that's going to lengthen your time in this delayed entry program. And week after week after week, you're going to be taking the PSTs with your mentor, or maybe every other week if you're lucky. And then, you got to train and get better and better and better. But what happens is if you don't master this PST, before you talk to the recruiter, you are now on the recruiter's timeline.
Yes.
And that delayed entry program is a maximum of 1 year. You can be in that thing for 1 year. And if you're in that thing for 1 year, what they're going to do is they're going to make you good at taking PSTs.
Yeah, which is only, again, understand, let's just to be super aware, folks, from what Stu and I have been told and what we understand, the job of the mentor is not to necessarily, like from their standpoint, is they're really focused on the PST prep. The guys at Great Lakes after boot camp are primarily focused on BUDS prep.
Yes.
That being said, it still is very much in your best interest to still prepare to the best of your capabilities for the PST and also BUDS. It's kind of lumped in there, but specifically, step number one is get to the training, which is the test.
Yes.
Which is why that's why we've decided on this one. Let's try to help you guys strategize in a sense of chess, not cheat or shortcut.
No.
The smart way of strategizing through the different sorts of PSTs that you might encounter. And what do we mean by different, right? Some mentors will say, hey, chin's got to go over the bar and make eye contact. For example, in a pull-up. Like there's just these little nuances. Maybe that Stu had said earlier off camera, like on some mentors in the PST, they want you always, like if the mentor is standing on one side of the pool deck, they want you always facing that way. So you're going to have to alternate sides of your breathing. So aside, instead of me ranting and raving on me agreeing or disagreeing with these certain things, you have what you have.
Yeah, the
right?
rules are the rules. It doesn't matter if you're running this 1.5 miles on a treadmill or if you're running on a track or some dirt trail with hills. That's what you have to run it on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember, because again, and there's value in this sort of ambiguity for maybe one thing, really. It's like, I remember being at Bud's, and it was second phase, the very first run we did in second phase. Like most of the runs you do in the 4 mile runs are usually early in the morning. So you've got a really wide beach.
Right.
You got a really real low tide, huge wide beach. First run of second phase was after lunch. It was high tide. We had to run on the other side of the berms. Super deep sand.
Oh, man, soft sand.
So we ran the demo pit road for a portion of it. That was the only kind of hard pack, that 200-meter stretch of that demo road, which is hard, and then it softens up again. We get the demo pits.
Yeah,
that's what. And I think the vast majority of the class failed the run, and it was kind of by design. Like, they really set us up for, purposely, to see how we'd react. And that's what we got in second phase. It was like, welcome to second phase, boys, because the shit ain't getting easier. And it was a good thing. Like, it was like, oh, okay, we're cool, man. We made it through Hell Week. We made it through Hydro Recon Hell Week, and welcome to second phase. You get kicked in the butt. But it was worth it. So that's my point, guys, is like, whether I or Stu agree or disagree with how the system goes, is like, you know what? Let's just talk about what we control. And this is what Stu and I are trying to offer you all.
Right. The system is a system, and you have to follow the rules, and you have to be able to handle it. You have to handle any arbitrary rule they come up with. You might have to swim without goggles. You might have to swim different sides every length.
Yep.
You might not be allowed to do breaststroke pullouts, maybe take out dolphin kicks, whatever. They're going to throw these things at you just to see how you handle it.
Okay.
So don't get all bent around the axle, and then start telling us, hey, they don't let you do that anymore. I'm like, yeah, they do. You just had an arbitrary rule thrown at you, and just relax.
Yeah, let me tell you why Stu and I don't give a shit. Let me just be super clear on this. Okay. I'll be the one. This is why. Hey, Stu, how many PSTs did you get a chance? How many? How many chances did you get to take a PST?
I had to take the one PST was my grade.
One.
But I took about 100 before that.
When it mattered. Like, for you to get into spec war, how many chances? Like,
I just had one test.
I had one test.
One test.
It was at Great Lakes, and there was 4 of us that took it. 4 of us.
Yeah.
3 of us passed. That was it. Right? We got one shot. So,
taking it 100 times until you pass it.
And you're not doing yourself any favors, folks. You're really not.
Because all you're doing is getting good at PSTs. A lot of people get 2 buds. Not many people get through buds.
For sure.
And there's a completely different animal. But today we're going to talk about the PST strategy. So what we're going to do for the rest of these tactical fitness reports is we're going to give a quick little blurb on acing your PST first, because it doesn't matter. We just had a guy come over that's already into the delayed entry program, has never done a swim over 500 yards before, didn't know his 500-yard time, didn't know his 1.5 mile time.
Yeah.
He's already in the delayed entry program. He's got 8 months to go before he ships.
And that 8 months is during a school year.
Yeah, he's still in high school. So I'm like,
it's a tough road.
I'm hoping,
and that's what we're trying.
I hope he proves me wrong.
Sure.
I hope he proves me wrong. And I want everybody who's 18 years old who goes to Bud's that proves me wrong, you can email me and say, screw you, Stu Smith. I'm 18 years old and I just graduated Bud's. Good. I want you to do that. You're an exceptional human being if you can do that at 18-year-old.
Yep. Same. You can call me, you can email me and call me whatever 4 letters you want. I'm good with that. I'm totally good. So we're going to give you little nuggets. And these are not absolutes. These are options. And so before we get into this, I'm going to say one thing. What we're going to go over should express, in my point, just like, especially on the swimming side, one thing is training has got to be diverse. If you want to be, and this is why we want you to get in the pool, for example, and do all sorts of different skills, different drills. because swimming, just like push-ups, just like pull-ups, just like the 1.5 miles, there's many things that will improve that. There's two things that people tend to focus on, and that's typically it, which is why there's plateauing. They typically just focus on time and distance. Oh, I got to put the time in and I got to swim the distance. But if you look at any sport or any context of physicality, you got to learn. And the more you learn early, that's why we're saying don't just get in and only practice a side stroke. Learn to swim the freestyle. Learn to swim with fins. Learn to swim different positions because you get overall water competence. Just like running, run hills, run tracks, run all these sort of things, right? Lift free weights, use bands, use body weights, do them all. So keep that in mind as we go through this. We're not just saying, well, Stu and Jeff said to do this. No, we're giving you things to think about. These are not absolutes.
Yeah.
Because
it's also a strategy too. And it's going to be different for each person.
For sure. And the order, right? The person and the order of the PST. So we're just going to we can't go over all the options because there's hundreds.
Yes.
Typically, the PST falls into 3 to 4 different sort of orders. And so we're going to kind of go over that right now, and we'll talk. So let's just talk about swimming. Let's talk about swimming right now.
First thing, 500-yard swim. What I always do with the 500-yard swim is first I make sure their technique is perfect, right?
Movement matters most.
Yeah, your technique in the water is critical. And if you can do that efficiently, meaning as few strokes as possible to get from one end of to the other, you're going to have a lot more energy left for the rest of the fitness test.
Yep.
I've seen people who can crush the PT, crush the runs, not that great at swimming, and exhaust themselves to try to get a good swim. You know, that's not a good strategy going into the PST.
Yep.
Right? Learning the technique first is critical. And then learning your pace to get a good score. So what we do is I don't look at the 500-yard swim as a 500-yard swim. I look at it as 1050s.
Yep.
Right? And just break it down. So in fact, I even do it real easy. This is real easy math, folks. It doesn't get any easier than this. 50 yards in 50 seconds. 100 yards.
Is that 10 minutes? Is that what it
100 seconds. No, it's an 820.
820, okay.
So it's a 500 second swim is an 820.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, when you're doing hundreds, should be at 100 seconds. You're doing 250s, should be 250 seconds. Eventually, this will come and, you know, you'll be able to know that's, you know, 3 minutes or whatever, you know. So, but anyway, that's the way you want to do it. You want to pace yourself. Each 50 should be a nice steady pace. Where people screw up is, you know, they start off that first one, they got their adrenaline going. You know, you need to take some big deep breaths, relax before you get into the pool, because
they start off in positive splits.
Yep.
Yeah. That's again, we'll get into that, but just that's why, you know, it really is a good idea, folks, to take these splits and don't. In these splits, here's again, let me jump in here. So when you're going to work these splits, you don't want to start off like let's say you jump into some of 500 or some in a 1050. Well, you need to know your splits,
right?
Because there's a point of diminishing return, and that's what you want to train to, that diminishing return. And pretty soon that diminishing return gets further and further and further down. And that's why Stu spends so much time with his splits, because, you know, you get a guy that's been training with Stu for a year, he can work a negative split. You get a guy that's been working with for 3 months. He's got a negative split for the first 300, and then he hits the wall, right? Yeah. And then someone that shows up right away, you're gonna be in negative splits immediately.
Yep.
Okay, so or positive splits. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I was saying negative. I meant
that means you just get slower every lap. Yeah, you're gonna get slower every lap versus faster every lap, or maintain the whole thing. You know,
right?
But it requires a cardiovascular endurance to do both of those. You know, for you to maintain a steady pace.
Yep.
Really requires you to be really in tune with your body, because you know how your pace feels, you know how everything's moving. Yeah, I've been doing this for so long, you know, I can do an 820, you know, without even looking at my watch. You know, I just know how it feels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You know your pace, you know your breathing, you know what you settle into. And guys, I just want you to think about this. This is not outside the scope of sport. This is sport, whether we're going to use the NFL combine, the 225-pound bench press, right? If someone can't bench 225 and they're training with, believe it or not, there are people in the NFL that can't bench 225 or prepping for it rather.
Right.
They don't start at 225. to get those reps up. They've got to work that strength and that movement and velocity. So again, when we're saying 500 meters, people go, oh my God, I got to swim that and figure out what it is. Well, that may not be the starting point for many of you. That starting point may just like, well, if I can maintain a 50-second split for 50 meters, well, then what's next? 75.
Yep.
If you can't maintain it for 75, you work on that distance until you can. Yep. And the best way to do that is not through effort, because Stu already said it.
Yeah.
It is efficiency is the fastest way to drop that time, not become a refrigerator with arms and just thrash with the water. So that's kind of a tough thing. So
yeah, you know, and I'll be honest with you too, Jeff. I mean, I can't teach swimming by texting and emailing.
No, can't. Bryce Harper doesn't get hitting instruction via Instagram.
Right. I mean, yeah, you have to watch some video. And if you can, have somebody videotape you, and you can watch yourself swim and compare it to people who are really good swimmers on the internet, right? And just compare the two, see what's going on. And if you want, you know, a lot of people, you know, text me in Instagram, or they post it on their Instagram and tag me in it.
Yeah, and then you can look. Yeah.
And then I'll tell you, I said, your head's popping up too high, your kick's wrong, you know, fix that, you know. Yeah. Happy to do that. You know, and that's easy.
You got to have so here's the thing too, is like, you have to have a good video, which is why the same thing with you. It's like, I'm going to jump in the water and I'm going to literally film people I swim. I'm going to swim behind them. I'm going to swim underneath of them. I'm going to film them from every direction I can. I'm swimming with fins just under them. And then we're in the water still in the waterproof camera, and we're going through like, see that? We need to work on that. And then you just dissect it. And so what I'm saying too is the last thing I have about the pool is this. A 50 meter is not just swimming. It's breathing, it's turning, it's cadence, it's frequency, it's direction, and it's propulsion. That's what you got. Okay. So I'm not going to repeat that, but my point is that let's say you're having a tough day, like you've had a long day, you got to get this work in, you got to strategize in the pool, the PST for later on. It's like, okay, well today I'm just going to work on my turns. I'm going to go 10 feet past the flag. I'm going to practice my swim in, aggressive swim in, off the wall, boom, kick, pull, glide, first stroke, stop. I'm going to practice that for 20 minutes. I'm going to practice going hard into the wall.
Great idea.
Because Newton's third law applies. Object in motion stays in motion, right? Or an object force is greater than a second. So you're coming to that wall hard, you're going to come off the wall hard. So it's like a vertical. Like if you have someone really slow and sluggish, they can't jump very high. But if I throw my hands down hard, that opposite reaction propels me up, makes me a higher jumper. So same in the pool. So we want to get our breathing in order. We want to get, and so like, you don't want to exhale and inhale at the same opportunity to breathe. You want to exhale in underwater and then inhale when you breathe, when your head resurfaces. Now you're not gasping. So treat the pool like you would any other environment, right? And that's what we're saying. So this PST strategy goes throughout. Just swimming laps isn't necessarily going to make you faster. And it will to a point, but it won't. It'll just stop. Same with push-ups and pull-ups. So that's my take on the swim.
I agree 100%. Also, you know, you might be a great runner. You might be a great biker. You know, you might have a cardiovascular conditioning that is stellar. And then you get in the pool and you're winded at 100 meters. I mean, there's a reason for that. There is a swimming shape that also has to occur.
For sure.
So what I try to do is I get people, let's say, first time they come in to swim with me, they got the stroke down. Could it be better? Yes. Well, we can fine tune it along the way, but let's say they get 54 seconds in a 50. If you do the math on that, that's 540 seconds in a 500. Do the math, that's a 9 flat. Not bad. I said, all right, so let's try to maintain that for the rest of the workout, right? Let's do 10 sets of 50s, right? And let's see, you know, with a little rest in between even, right? And just play that out, you know. And then so people ask me all the time, Jeff, like, how much should I be swimming if I'm trying to prepare for a 500? I said, well, you probably want to go at least 1,000, 1,500 is better, right? If you can do 1,500 in a day, you know, whether that's
provided you can maintain a pace.
Provided you maintain a good pace. And, you know, usually what I do all the time, and this is a strategy that I like to do before any swim workout we do, we warm up with a 500-yard swim. And ask yourself why that is. You know, even if you've never done a 500-yard swim, I want you to think in your head that this 500-yard swim is now a warm-up.
Yep.
And do that every day, day after day after day, week after week, month after month. Eventually, when you take that PST again, in your head, oh, this 500 is just a warm-up.
Yeah.
And you got it down. That's why when you go to the recruiter and you've never taken a PST before, that 500 is going to kick your ass. And then all your other scores are going to suck too.
Yep.
So that's one reason right there alone, you should be well prepared for this fitness test long before the Navy sees you. The Navy is going to get you good at taking those PSTs, but it's going to take some time. If you're only seeing them once a week, that's not enough. You need to be filling in the other 5-6 days a week with more swimming. So
yeah, there's only 2 times in a swimming pool that I don't maintain a split with myself or my candidates or the guys that come train with me. Is that if they're learning, we're working on learning to maximize efficiency. Like in that, or it's like it's they are in a active recovery day, like kind of like your mobility day. Like, hey, we're gonna get in the water, we're just gonna move, we're gonna do some skill stuff.
Technique day. Yep.
Otherwise, I'm working splits. Always working splits, or have a good idea of what my pace needs to be. And that's why I pace everyone.
Yep.
People swim off of me and they pace off of me. I go, pace me, and this is what we're doing. Stick up. And I'm not, because I'm so used to it. Like Stu, I've been doing this since I was 4. I've been teaching lessons for almost 30 years.
Wow.
So swim lessons. So I kind of like, I'm better in the water. I'm better teaching in the water than I'm on the pool deck. And I know they're the same way. That's why you swim with them.
Yeah.
Like, it's easier to show. So.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one thing we do, Jeff, I call it mirror imaging drills.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll just, you know how we do at Bud, you're always facing each other.
Yep. You stack them. Yeah.
Just right side by side, swimming down the lane, side by side. And, I just say, just do what I'm doing.
That's exactly what I do. I bird dog myself. Yeah.
Yep.
Where I say, hey, let me get off the wall, get me my second stroke. And so basically we have 4 lanes and no lane lines where I'm at. There's the guys, they keep the pool half lane line, the other half they don't lane line it. And we stay in the entire 4 lanes, no lane lines.
Okay.
There ain't no lane lines in the fucking ocean. Well, I like I like swimming in lane lines, but they get too focused on where they're at in the pool first instead of like, I just need to swim in straight. So anyways, you're same thing, man. Like there's a lot of power in somebody in the midst getting that visual.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
That's my swimming. Well. That's my swimming sort of strategy is the strategy really begins and ends with pacing with swimming. Honestly, it does.
Absolutely.
It really does.
Whenever we get to the run, we'll say the exact same thing about the run too. But I will say this, how to get in swimming shape. One thing I like to do is burn it hard with a freestyle. Maybe even skip breathing. So we'll do this workout I call 50-50s, where half of it is freestyle, half of it is combat swimmer stroke. You go down and back hard, freestyle, get really winded, and then do your combat swimmer stroke at your goal pace and see if you can catch your breath doing your combat swimmer stroke.
Yep. Yeah.
That's when you know you're starting to get in better shape.
Yeah.
And you are tired learning a technique or mastering a technique while you're tired, because here's what typically happens. If you're not used to swimming, about 300 yards into this, your technique falls to crap. And now you're doing 15 strokes per length when you were doing 6 strokes per length.
Yeah. And that's when I switch. So what I do, and when that happens with myself, and one of the skills that I have them do is, and at 50 meters, right in the middle of the pool is where the slant is. It goes from 5 feet to 12, right? And I use that split as a point of a target. And I say, hey, we're doing a 50, 85% effort combat side stroke with fins. When you go all the way down, and when you hit halfway point, you go hypoxic. And this is some of the things I learned. I go submerge.
Okay.
So my stroke, they submerge. So they're fatigue submerge. And then it's dolphin kick overhead, max effort into the wall. And we'll repeat those. We're maintaining that pace. And we'll do 20 of those.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Because I want to get into hypoxic, but I don't want them to get into hypoxic when they haven't gotten the routine of that, that almost 50, that 35 meter swim. I want them to get in a rhythm, get in a fast rhythm, disrupt the rhythm, max velocity, where we don't need a lot of technique. We just need power. And then when they come up, I go, all right, now we're on the clock. Breathe.
Yep.
heart rate comes down, go, bam, do it again.
Yep.
And that's how I do very similar stuff to you do. And that's the thing is like, regardless, you guys are seeing there's multiple ways to skin this cat. Okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have never said I have the workout to prepare people for
for sure. For sure.
You know, I have a workout.
Exactly. So again, we can be much less long-winded on some of the stuff. So I think the easiest one to pace is the sit-up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It requires pacing.
Yeah. And it should. And that's the thing that people don't think too much about.
I have seen people when I was at the Naval Academy coaching and, you know, administering PFTs, because part of that is it's their PE grade, you know, at the academy. So I would have people fail the sit-ups there because they have to do 65 in 2 minutes to pass. That gives you a D, right? You have to, if you got 100, you get an A. So it's just extra points, you know, that's the way it works. So they would fail with a 64, 60, you know, somewhere around there in 2 minutes one day. And then I say, you know what, here, try this, come back tomorrow and do this with me. And all we did was, instead of the first 30 seconds being 30 or 35 repetitions of sit-ups, I said, slow it down to 20.
Yep.
Right. And so you got 20 every 30 seconds. And you'll find that pace is so easy. And they went from 60 to 80 in one day.
Yeah.
I didn't make them stronger in a day.
Yep.
Just made them a little smarter.
Set a metronome. I do the same thing. The same thing, Stu. And that's, you guys, this is not something that Stu and I really even collaborated on. It just, from years of trying it and processing, realize like coming out of the gate isn't the way to go.
No.
Set a metronome. Set a music metronome at 85 clicks per 2 minutes, or you go to 170 per 2 minutes, where it's click, click, click.
And you can get those on your app too, metronome apps. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Set that up, find your pace, and stick with it. And then you'll see it's like, well, historically at 90 seconds, I'm always at X number, plus or minus 2 or 3, and you got that in your head, and you go, all right, I got 20 seconds. Now I'm going to speed up. Just go to pop.
Yep.
Pop. And basically you're accelerating while everyone has just hit the wall.
Yes.
You're not accelerating so much, your hip flexors are mad at you. So you're not going to stand up all pissed off. You're just like, most people, when they set that metronome, finish somewhere between 82 and 92 reps.
Yep.
Because they're like, oh man, like they said time and I still had like 6 more quick reps in me. I was like, what the heck?
Versus being stuck at 130 and you can't move your shoulders off the ground.
You're screwed. Yeah. So again, I'm here to tell you, and this is not to say guys don't give max effort. Give smart max effort, real smart, and it'll be recognized by if the cadres paying attention, and they will be at buds. You know, your mentor might go, "What the hell, dude? We're supposed to do max effort. Do what you're just."
Well, I will tell you this: if you do max effort in a 2-minute test in anything, right, in 30 seconds, you will probably start slowing down, and it will be negative. It'd be just you're going to get worse every time.
And we know that fact because there is a standardized test called the Wingate, which is awful test. And it's for 30 seconds because the reality of maximal, like true maximal physical effort, if you're if you're Lance Armstrong, you're going to poop out for 1:10 of maximal effort cycling or whatever. And that's what the Wingate test is. Like a maximal 30-second test. And it's awful.
In any activity.
Anything.
Any activity. Biking, rowing,
swing a kettlebell, a light kettlebell as hard as you can and as fast as you can for 30 seconds. You're just going to be miserable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's our 2 cents for sit-ups. So
I will say this one more thing. Those people that, you would see the fail sit-ups, it works like this. They can get 30 or 35 in the first 30 seconds. They can't match that in the next minute and a half.
30.
They may end with 60, right? 55, 60. And they can't move themselves off the ground at 1.5 minutes. I mean, they might get 1 in the last 30 seconds. I mean, that's typically what happens when you sprint first.
For sure.
So now push-ups, I have found push-ups to be different. I have found those, one, they're easy to get better at. Right. I mean, sit-ups are easy to get better at too, but push-ups are one of those things.
Pacing standpoint, for sure.
Yeah, push-ups are one of those things that I never was really good at pacing because I felt that if I was pacing somehow, gravity was slowly taking them away from me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So if I could sprint and only exert on the up. That's another thing I forgot to say about the sit-ups is you really have to kind of relax your abs going down.
Yep.
Don't be hard flexed, coming down, because that takes away. Same with push-ups. Don't be going down slow. Just let gravity take you down to the ground and exert on the up.
So the thing about jump roping, folks, a person can jump rope because of the elastic energy that's stored, for lack of a better term, in the Achilles, the calf, and the foot muscles, and all those sort of things. And so you just kind of bounce. You don't think that your autonomic nervous system is doing this contraction based off of what it's doing. You're not really thinking land, squeeze, and you're jumping rope, okay? The same thing, you want to get in that cadence because we want to train the stretch reflex. So your inability to do something, or you touch a stove and you jerk, those are your Golgi tendons. Those are your tendons that are fire. They protect you and they fire fast. They're like you're dozing off in class and your head snaps up. Those are your Golgi tendons.
Yep.
They're firing. You can train that stretch reflex. That's how you can jump rope. That's why boxers spend so much time on their toes and they float. They jump rope. They're always on their toes. Same with the PST, right? In terms of pacing with the push-up, and that's why I do my push-up mechanism the way it is like I want a high velocity at bite-sizable pieces.
Yes.
And repeat those. Repeat high velocity bite sizes. It's pacing.
Yeah.
It's splits. It's like pretty soon, man, you can knock out 22 fast. Well, in 2 or 3 weeks, you can knock out 32 at that same pace.
Yep.
And then you're going to have this natural fall off. So for me, what I like to do on the PST is I cluster it because I want to group everything together because I can go, boom, knock out 5.
Yep.
Knock out 5 or 6 as I get tired instead of just trying to grind away.
Yeah.
Go fast. Use momentum. Use those tendons. You want to bounce.
Yeah.
And you want to use your toes. When you go to push with your toes. It'll lift you up. And you can actually push forward against your shoulders and it'll carry you up. If you push hard with your toes and flex your glutes as you push, your push-ups will rock you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll get a lot more.
I like that. That's a really good point. I never really thought about that, but that's how.
And then as you do it, again, we can drive the elbows in. So I want to flex the triceps as I push with my toes and it just lifts me up.
Oh, you know what? Let's do that. Let's talk about form on this one because I see a lot of bad push-up form, especially when the elbows are high.
Yeah.
Like if you're forming a T with your elbows and your hands are going in, not good. That's all shoulders and
it's front delt.
If your hands are right here with your face, I mean,
Problem.
You're going to get nowhere with this. I mean, you got to think of the push-up like a bench press. How do you bench press? You don't have the bar over your face, right? You bring it down to your chest. So you're down under here.
Yeah, right? For sure.
On the chest. And then, another thing where people go wrong is their elbows are too far in, right? And so their hands are out like this. Elbows are too far in. That's all tricep. So what you got to do is somewhere right in the middle. So instead of 90 and 0, you're about 45.
Exactly.
That's going to get you your hands instead of being at 12 will be like at 1 and 11.
Yeah.
Right. And that gets you a good 45-degree angle on this. And I tell you, and because you want to distribute it between your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps. I mean, your core is going to obviously be working too, but mainly.
But that's where your glutes. Your glutes are going to be holding all of your trunk in place if they're tight. Your glutes should always be squeezed. The whole time you should be squeezing your butt cheeks, right? Because as your hips fall, if your glutes are loose, your hips will continue to fall as you're trying to press with your arms. So you have 2 different forces. You rock. You don't actually push.
Yep.
So you want to time it, okay? And that's the thing too, is if you all sit or stand, and you make a fist and put your elbow at 90 and you flex your chest, right? And then you lift your elbow, your pec will turn off right when it gets past 45.
Uh-huh.
So this becomes a front delt exercise.
Yep.
So your position determines your force production. That's why offensive linemen come under, right? Boxers come across. Other than right cross, but this is a hip movement. I'm using my glutes.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, hip.
That's all right cross or left cross. So we want to put your wrist should be in line with your elbow. That's called axial loading, right? We can't get it out here, right? I can't load through the shoulder. So now I can, just like what Stu is saying. We don't want to be in here because it takes too much effort to pull in your lats.
Yep.
It's like pull in my lats, relax, the arm will go neutral slot. Now I can engage my lats again.
Yep.
So Think about position. Position determines power production. Position also determines power management. So deceleration. So that's why we're saying in the sit-ups. So one of the questions is, what should the angle of my knees be? Am I sitting and someone's on my, like, should I have my knees close to me? Should I have them far away from me? Right? We want your hips to be at 90. You want your knees to be a little bit beyond 90. Because that's going to give you a little hill to come up on over. And you can settle your shoulder blades down and then just kind of, when I sit up, I kind of hunch and curl and put myself back.
You kind of roll back.
I put my lower back down and I extend. And it allows me to sink and go.
And relax your abs too.
I'm able to, because I'm inhaling as I go down. I hold and I touch my shoulders and I sit up. And I exhale and I sink down, so I'm not levering back. So I kind of sink down and like worm out. So,
hey, another thing too is you get to that minute and a half point and you're starting to feel like you got nothing left, right? Back your butt up and you can kind of slide your butt back like another couple of inches. And it changes the angle of your hips and knees a little bit. And you have to come up a little higher, but it's different. And you can actually find yourself with 5 or 10 more sit-ups, that last 30 seconds if you're starting to fail.
I mean, you can get to the point of, like, when you're on the ground, roll your shoulder over and then pull with your rib cage up. You come in a circle. You fall back down. I mean, you can do all sorts of stuff. We're going to pull those obliques in and use that, because if we can get a rotation, I can sit up. I'm a much stronger rotation because then I can pull my hips and glutes in. Now, don't start that way. That's like, hey, I want to get an extra 3 or 4 in the back end without throwing myself up and back down.
Right. Exactly.
Right? So
these are those like near failure moments where you still got 10 or 15 seconds left and you can get 3 or 4 more. Sometimes you have to, engage different muscle groups in order to make that happen.
We're purposely creating a non-invasive alternative, right? A different movement pattern based off of what we're trying to achieve, but it's not going to be detrimental. So, we got the push-up, pull-up. Well, we haven't talked the pull-up. So the pull-up is one of those things you can't really strategize that well.
You just got to practice them so damn much that 20 is easy. Right. And 20 should be easy after all this. Right. So you might be at 25 on a day without having swum. Right. You might be, and during the PST, you might drop it down to 20, so because that swim takes it out of you, and all these little anaerobic events will take out some of that glycogen that hopefully you have plenty of, carbs in you and you're able to burn it, because you are burning a lot of glycogen through that. That's why one of my tricks I like doing is I like sipping, some Gatorade throughout the entire test. So whether it's a canteen that's got some sugar in it, just a little bit of sugar, not a whole lot, just enough to
10, 15 grams, something.
Something I know that, I got a little bit of juice in me, so I won't be bonking on that 1.5 miles that's coming up.
The only feedback I have on the deadlift, or the pull-up, excuse me, deadlift's not part of it. Deadlift's part of the Army, but not the Navy. So if I can show, like, from a pull, again, position determines power. So if I'm like this on a pull-up bar, right, and I really can't really see it, but if I have my legs back at a 90, my feet are out, and I'm really stressing this position, right, with my feet back, you're gonna limit yourself on pull-ups because I've anteriorly tilted my pelvis so much,
right,
the shoulders are already here.
Right.
So feet should be below you. Not way. I mean, they can be behind you because they're just kind of a relaxed hang as you pull. But when we get tired, what do? We like really get this flexion.
Start up.
We want to stay long and loose. Okay.
And they may.
If anything, when you go to pull up, if anything, when you pull up, your feet are below you, and like basically squeeze your glutes and lift your toes. That'll keep your hips in better position. So I'm sorry, what were you saying, Stu?
No, I was just going to say that, pull-ups, are typically, there's some arbitrary rules they throw in there. They're going to count the first 8 on their pace. Sometimes that may be extra long and just to screw with you. They're going to say up, down.
That's how they did mine.
Down. Right. And then after 8, you're on your own. So you got to get good. You got those first 8, just play with the game, play the game and learn how to do your first 8 pretty slow. And then after that, just sprint it.
And that's where, like Stu has already said, and he's like, if you prepare for this, it becomes laughable. Not in a funny way, but like they go, this guy's serious.
Yeah.
Right. When I did my PST, it was up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
That was for this. Well, that was for the screener here.
Right.
Right. And that was one of those, because yes, it's well within the right of Naval Special Warfare to make it as strict as they want. They absolutely have that right. So
they're going to play with you.
Yep, they are.
Another one too is they may say don't cross your ankles.
Yep.
Right. That's another one. You got to keep your feet side by side.
And they're actually doing you a favor.
Yeah.
So if you externally rotate under tension, your shoulders want to externally rotate.
Yep.
We don't want the feet crossed and the hips out. It's going to screw. It's going to make it harder for your shoulders to go into.
Yep.
That would be flexion.
Yep. So anyway, some of these rules are also, some of the rules are arbitrary. Some of them are actually helpful.
Yeah.
So it's just the way it is. Then
here's
what I love. Before the run, though, you have 10 minutes.
True.
Yep. What should you be doing in this 10 minutes? People always say. I said, well, one thing I like to do is try to get all the blood that I just got pumped into every muscle in my upper body, my abs, my chest, my back, my shoulders, my arms. I try to get that down to my legs again.
Yep.
Right. And the best way to do that is just actually jog.
Yep.
Just go for like a quarter-mile jog, shake out your arms, stretch out your arms while you're doing it.
Yes.
And then like for the first 5 minutes, that's all you're doing. You're going to jog for a couple of minutes and then stretch out your arms, get the blood out of there. Right. And then you stretch out your legs for the other 5 minutes.
Because 10 minutes, guys, is enough rest.
Plenty of time.
And most places it ends up being a bit longer because it's a little bit hurting the cats kind of thing. And it might be 10, 15 minutes sometimes.
Might be 2 heats even.
It might be, yeah. So again, the worst thing you can do, probably the worst, one of the worst things you probably can do is just plop down and stay still.
Yeah.
Keep moving. And if you're like, I'm really out of breath, it might start off as a walk. Yep. You start catching your breath, it turns into a slow jog. We're not saying you should go do running before you run.
Yeah.
We're saying
slow jog
to prime the system.
Dynamic stretches, butt kickers, Frankenstein walks,
all you should already been doing, right? Like it's how have you been preparing and relaxing and doing this and in your own PST? This stuff needs to be practiced when you're practicing too. This isn't like, hey, I've showed up the PST. This is for real. I'm going to take it for serious. Yeah. No. All these things that Stu and I are talking about, they should be practiced every single time you not only do the PST, but anytime you do the movements associated with the PST.
Yeah.
You should treat them like it's a competition.
And just like the swim with 1050s, what I do is I break this, mile and a half into 6 quarters.
Yes.
So you got 6 400s and you muscle memory that pace. Yep. Like if I want to swim a 9 flat or run a 9 flat, I'm going to swim or I'm going to run 90-second quarters, 90-second quarters, 90-second quarters.
That's doable. That's extremely doable, folks. At a pace you're like, well, because here's the thing. Stu and I both take the Pepsi Challenge because for most of you that are listening to this that have been training for the PST 6, 8, 10 months or 5 months even, if you follow this and go, okay, today I'm just going to not come out of the gate like I'm on fire, and you work those 90-second splits, by the time you get to that last 800, you're going to go, oh my God, I got a ton in the tank.
I got some juice.
You're going to make up 3 to 4 seconds per 100.
Easy.
And all of a sudden now you just finish with a negative 15 or negative 20 split. Yeah. Your last 2 40s. And you're like, I just ran a 63 on my last. And you're like, how the hell that happened? Well, you have to set yourself up for that.
Yes.
You're not going to get into those negative splits if you come out in a negative.
Yeah. And that's where sprint intervals come into play.
Yep.
But it's also where goal pace intervals come into play. I mean, you need to muscle memory your goal pace.
Yes, you do.
So, and people say, well, I run a 12-minute now. I want to get down to 9 minutes. Well, be smart about it. I mean, you're not going to go from an 8-minute mile to a 6-minute mile. Let's compromise. Let's go in the middle. Yep. Right. Let's go for a 7-minute mile.
To run a 6-minute mile. That's the beauty.
Right. Right.
Like, so let's go to the point of saying before we have our eyes set on 6.
Yeah.
7 is a good place to be.
Absolutely. You got to progress downward, with your speed as well. Yeah. So instead of running 2-minute quarters, to get a 12-minute mile and a half,
Yeah.
let's run minute 40s, minute 45s. That's going to give you a 10:30 mile and a half. And then once you master that, then we can start playing around with, 9:30 pace,
sure.
1:30, 1:35, but you'd be amazed at what 5 seconds makes a big difference. 5 seconds per lap.
Yeah, that's a lot.
5 seconds per lap is 30 seconds in a mile and a half.
So I mean, that's the same with the pool. It's like if you get away from grabbing the gutter.
Oh yeah.
Pool, right? If you just touch post, if you have a strong turn, you post, big breath, turn, push off the wall, come out of a breath, and start your strokes again. If you're able to do that instead of grab, you're going to take 20 seconds off your swim just like that.
Absolutely.
Right? Because a lot of people two-hand grab, they push themselves up, they turn, right? Both of their feet are nice flat on the wall, and their hands are back, and then they drag into the water.
Yeah.
Right. If you stop doing that for 20 times and people are like, well, I'm just so out of breath. So now you're answering our question for us.
Right.
Get used to swimming 100 or a 150. Get used to swimming or running. I'm doing it now. Get used to having good splits for your 800 before you go to 12, before you go to 16, and then pretty soon you're like, well, I can maintain this 90-second split for 3 miles.
Yeah, there you go.
And people are like, well, how does preparing for a mile and a half PST help me for a 4 mile? Because if your splits at 80% effort are having you run an 8:30 mile and a half, imagine what that split is going to give you if you run 4 miles just as fast.
And even if you back it down 30 seconds,
you're still running down.
If you back it down from a 6-minute mile to a 6:30 mile, I mean, you're still crushing a 4 mile timed run. And, so you have a different fast pace for your mile and a half. Maybe slow it down 30 seconds, even a minute. You do a 7-minute mile, for 4 miles, that's 28. That's
the standard. That's the third
passing third phase.
That's it. So again, it's also like, and I get like the media, like the world we're involved in, like we just click away from seeing stuff is, you got world-class marathoners who run sub 5 minute, or 5:10 marathons.
Oh, insane.
They're 105 pounds, folks.
Yes,
so we love, like, if we could get our bud students to all run sub 6:30s and be able to do 40 pull-ups and everything, got it. But that's not the case. A 7-minute split over 4 miles for someone's being asked to go through buds and do everything else they're supposed to do at a body weight probably averaging 170 pounds at buds, probably, I would imagine, 165.
Or closer to 200 even.
My point is like, these are heavy people in soft sand doing O courses and swims, and you're like, 7 minutes is good. It's good. It is good. And then what it's going to allow you to do is just show up to buds and just get better.
Yeah.
So don't miss the opportunity to, because if you like with a run or swim or anything else, I get it, you're all excited. But if you come out thinking, oh, day 1, week 1, I gotta swim in 8:30, I gotta run in 8:30, I gotta have 30 pull-ups, you're going to be extremely disappointed and disenfranchised, because it's not easy. If you start off, that's my starting point, right? If you come in and go, hey, I've got nothing, I'm pretty new to this, I kind of know how to do most of this stuff. My numbers aren't good, but they certainly aren't bad. You're at 50 push-ups, a 10:30 run, you're at a 10:30 swim, you're at 12 pull-ups. That's not a bad starting point.
No,
you have enough to
do
these splits, to understand them. And then 6 weeks later, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I've gotten 20% better.
Yep.
A year later, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, easy day. You can crush it on a bad day.
Yeah.
And that's really the goal. The goal of this PST strategy is to get you to a level to where you can pass that PST any day. In fact, a lot of my guys, it's fun to watch them evolve, because the way they'll take their first few PSTs with the mentor is they'll have a day off, maybe do a mobility day the day before, and then they go crush the PST. Once they mastered this thing and they're like a month before shipping out, they will do whatever workout that they have the day before. I've had guys that come in the morning, do a workout, and they say, yeah, I got a PST at noon today. I didn't want a PST to mess up my workout. So that's, there's no need to take 2 days off to, crush a PST, right?
Yeah.
Maybe when your first one, you might be nervous and you feel like you need
for sure
to stay off and do that.
Totally.
There's nothing wrong with that. But eventually this PST just becomes another workout for you. But it requires you to practice it constantly.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say constantly.
So we're saying, so like
Practice
again,
it enough to where over time you've done it several times, and it's you now have been able to form a strategy.
yeah,
Because what we're telling you right now, you might have to have some alteration to these strategies that works best for you. What
yes.
works best for you may not work best for for me or Jeff. So you have to form the strategy. You have to realize when you can push and when you can pull back and still be efficient, in the water, or efficient while you're running, right? So these are little skills that you only get by practicing the PST, not multiple days a week. I'm not saying that, but regularly. I would
But what
say,
you can do every
yeah.
week too, and I know Stu will agree, is that you don't have to do a full PST
No.
every week. But if like, hey, today I'm doing a lot of pressing,
Yep.
Some PST push-up type interval work as
Absolutely.
dynamic warm-up becomes a part of it. It's like, hey, I'm gonna do 6 sets of 12 as fast as I can after my general warm-up. Bam, bam. I'm gonna do like a 5-to-1 work to rest ratio. Do 12 as fast as I can. I'm gonna prime that nervous system. I'm gonna prime my power movement, my motor function, and then you go into your workout. Right?
You know what I also like to do with that, Jeff? We do sprint push-ups like that too.
Yep.
But then we'll flip it over and I say, all right, nice, easy, 1 minute goal pace sit-ups.
Yeah.
Now, what's a goal pace sit-up? Well, 1 minute, if your goal is to have 100 sit-ups, you want to be at 50 in 1 minute.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And pace it. You want to be at 25 in 30 seconds. Pace it. Learn to pace. And sometimes we'll just do 30-second breaks of it. And I just want everybody to get 25 sit-ups in 30 seconds.
It's getting yourself acclimated to what your pace needs to be. That's what really Stu is saying, is it's not just pace to know.
Yeah.
You're pacing to learn.
Yep.
Right? Because when you're in the PST and you are stressed out and go, yeah, I'm at 35. Like, oh shit, when I'm at 35, it's in a minute. And the cabaret's not going to call splits. All right, guys, you're a minute in, you're a minute 20 in, you're a minute 30 in. All right. They're going to be like, all right, 10 seconds, finish up.
Yeah.
Right? They may give you a minute. Hey, you're a minute in, hurry the fuck up. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
So just understand that just for your own personal, like, happy headspace, you're in PST, you're like, there's craziness going along. If you're in your zone, you're like, I'm in pace, man. Heck yeah, I'm smiling inside. Like, I'm going to pass this sucker. You're cruising.
Yep.
You got to do those things enough. Not PST every day, but components of the PST.
Absolutely.
Trained every week.
That's what I meant by doing it often.
Totally. I know you now, just clarifying. That's what you're saying. So
yeah.
Just
and, same for the run. End your workout with a 1.5 mile run. You could be an upper body day, could be a lower body day. I don't care. But in that workout with a 1.5 mile run, because
with a paced 1.5 mile run.
Yeah,
yes.
You're pumped up. You're pumped up. You got to transition into that run, just like we mentioned about shaking it out before you run, and then go do that 1.5 mile. Right, yep. And that's a good way to kind of practice that. Now, if you can swim before you do all this stuff, that's another good way to kind of get in PST shape. Swim first, then lift and PT.
To practice it. And so, because the thing is you don't want to show up with the PST having not at least experienced, because like I said, they can change it up.
Yeah, they can change the order if they need to.
You yourself want to create a lot of diversity in your training. So when you show up and go, well, I haven't done it exactly like this, but I've done something similar and it was way more difficult than they're having me do. It's like, and a difficult in the sense of not talking kicking yourself in the teeth. I'm saying like this challenging programming that yields an adaptation that's desired.
Yeah. So what we will do, Jeff, during our PST cycle, and like I said, this is a periodization block for us. We go through late summer, early fall PST cycle. So we'll do the PST every 2 weeks. During the rest of the year, we really don't focus on a lot of actual PSTs, but we just do the elements like Jeff mentioned. But like right now, we're taking our last PST this Saturday before we start our lift cycle, and it's actually a double PST. So it starts off like this. You got the swim, push-up, sit-up, pull-ups, 1.5 miles. You got a 10-minute break. You got a 1.5 miles to run back, pull-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, 500-yard swim. And it's just fun. It's a fun little workout that, we push hard on the first one. Second one kind of sucks, to be honest with you. But, they eventually get a little better at that.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, a double PST, makes a single PST easy.
That and the likelihood of you encountering a double PST is extremely likely.
Oh yeah, you'll
We
see.
did at my day one buds first phase. We did back-to-back PSTs.
Yep.
And they counted. So
Yeah.
people that failed both PSTs went away.
Yeah.
And then the people that failed the first, or they passed the first,
And
failed the second, they took it a third the next day. They took it a third the next day. And I know there's one guy that passed it, and he graduated buds.
Oh,
good seal, great seal. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things that he wasn't a PT guy. Like he was just good enough. And then he learned, he's like, well, I got to pace myself. And he did. And he passed and after that, he never had trouble. Just one of those things that probably nerves got him more than anything. But he did it, man. He endured, and a lot of people didn't. We lost a number of people that day, probably 10 or 15.
Well, you know what? It's weird because, getting good at the PST is important to getting two buds. But I've seen a lot of people that can crush the PST that don't make it through buds.
Crushes them, yeah.
It is what it is. It's not the ultimate indicator on how well you will do.
But the PST is the one common thread outside of gender that exists at buds. That all failures that fail buds, quit, fail, whatever, pass the PST. Everyone that graduates buds has also passed the PST. So it's really, other than, there's probably some other sort of things like the gender.
Yeah.
In the PST, there's only 3 guarantees in life, right? Was it death, taxes, and something or else? Death and taxes, right?
Yeah.
The 2 guarantees at buds right now is that you'll be male, and you have to take the PST and pass it. That's the common thing. So, anyways, hopefully that helped.
I like this one. We'll call this one PST Strategy. Hopefully you learned something from this one. I also wrote an article on this one as well. It's called the PST Clinic, right? I'll put a link into the YouTube description. If you're more of a reader, you can kind of dissect what we did in this one. Because I had 4 different guys go through the PST, and I went through each of these elements with them. So I tracked each one of their 50s throughout the swim, and you could see where ones were negative splitting, ones that were maintaining, ones that got worse. Same with the run, and same, push-ups and sit-ups. You could see that, and you can kind of see where you are in that zone. But I highly recommend it. And, a real good tool too, by the way, for these splits is to just use your smartphone stopwatch. Because you can hit the start button, and then you can hit this lap button, and these laps are just going to line right up for you. Boom, 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 boom. You can see right there. Have somebody
get out of the pool and say, "Here's your splits right here."
Yep. Have somebody do that, and you just line right up 50, 50, 50, 50, 55, 57.
Yep.
Now you know where you need to adjust your swim workout. So now you don't do 1050s anymore. Maybe you just do 500s.
Yep.
Right. Or maybe build it up to 1000s.
For sure. I know you should do them all.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, today I'm doing 100-meter splits. Tomorrow I'm doing 150s. Next day I'm doing 25s.
Yeah. Play it around.
So just be aware now. Anyone emails me their PST scores, the next thing I'm going to ask is, what are your splits? What are your quarter splits and your 50 splits? Because if you don't have them, then I go, well, that time is arbitrary unless it's a great time.
Yeah.
Right. If you're like, hey, I'm stuck at 1050 or I'm stuck at 950. Okay. Where did you begin to fall off? Is it right away? So you better have your splits.
Yeah.
Have your splits.
Something I like to ask too is like, what is your first split? Right. Is it too fast? Did you start off too fast?
Yeah.
Is your technique capable of doing a 8-minute
split
swim?
Show your capability of a fluency.
Right. That tells you your technique. Yeah. That tells you your technique is capable of this. Your cardiovascular is not capable of maintaining it for 9 more laps.
Yeah.
So that tells you.
That's what things like I'm looking at, like the 50, the 100, and the 150. Those first 3 50s to me lay everything out, because that's going to show technique. It's going to show cardiovascular capability, and it's also going to give me a look at your turns.
Yep. And
another thing, how you're breathing.
Another thing too is when somebody's testing out your or timing your splits, is to also time your strokes per length.
Yep.
on one of the 25s. It doesn't have to be all of the 25s, but
For sure.
just how many times do you breathe to get across the pool? Because you're going to breathe every cycle of the stroke. So all I do is look up. I see someone head pop up, I'm counting. Head pop up, I'm counting. It takes you 9 times to get across the pool. Probably a little too much. If you can drop it down to 6 or 7, ideal.
Yep.
Now, if you're a competitive swimmer, you should be at 4 or 5 strokes per length. You know, that's nothing wrong with that either. So
for sure.
Anyway, so this is PST strategy. It's going to change. Your strategy is going to be different no matter who you are, because we all come into this with different strengths and weaknesses. We come into it with a different athletic history. You know, football player is going to have a different strategy than the swimmer.
Yep.
You know, the cross country runner is going to have a different strategy than everybody else. You know, it's just, you know, you got to play to your strengths and weaknesses on this, and we all have them. And then you got to make your weaknesses a little stronger. So that's that. So Jeff, our next one we're going to do, Jeff and I are going to build the perfect bud student.
Yep.
What that's out. So stand by for the next series of these. And we wanted to start off with the PST strategy first, because building a bud student successfully requires first crushing this PST. After that, we get into the details of, you know, what that student needs.
Yep.
What that student needs to get through buds.
And it'll be probably a number of videos, because we're not just talking about the physical. We're also talking about, hey, like, you know, hey, when the day is done, right? We've kind of already talked about recovery and certain other things, but what we're trying to do is, again, if we created the perfect bud student, it's going to fall like in this 80 percentile window. Because again, we could make extremes and all these sort of things and guarantees, but what we want to do is, if given the right timeline, if given, you know, that, you know, you don't enter the DEP program and right away, if you give yourself that year, 18 months, the person that we're going to describe, you know, hopefully over the next couple episodes, you can become that. You can fall into that trend at some point, you know, some sooner than others, right? Some of you already may be in it, and some of you may go, that seems really extensive. Yeah, it may be. And that's why, Stu and I say, give yourself a year and a half.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've already done something similar to this. We've taken the football player, we've taken the CrossFitter, we've taken the swimmer, the rower, the hockey player, you know, and we said, here's the strengths they bring and here's the weaknesses they bring. Let's prepare them for bud. So we've kind of done that with, you know, specific backgrounds, you know, athletic histories. Now we're just going to do it as, here's statistically speaking, here's what you need to bring to the table.
Yeah, and that's what we aim to do. We're going to take the numbers from Naval Social Warfare and again kind of revisit those.
Yep.
We're obviously going to use the things that we've seen and used ourselves, or we use on folks that we train with. And again, this is not a complete hey, there's no guarantee, there's no complete sort of version, because we go over this perfect bud student, there's going to be dozens of guys that have graduated buds. It's like, that was not me at all.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So just
it may not even be me. You know,
right.
I'm not saying this is going to be me. That's who I wished I was when I was going through buds.
Yeah, for sure. So stay tuned, and we'll get it out to you shortly.
All right, Jeff. Thanks again.
We appreciate it.
We'll see you guys.